before we tackle our lesson, let's have a recap about the movie that we watched, which is entitled Gifted. Mapapansin natin na mas advanced si Mary sa mga kaidaran niya at kung kaya naman ay namangha yung mga teachers niya. At dahil nga doon ay gusto siya kunin ng grandma niya, which is ang mother ng mama niyang si Diane. Pero dahil nga binili na ni Diane si Frank na wag ibigay at magkaroon ng maayos at normal na buhay si Mary, ay hindi pumapayag si Frank. Pero dahil nga sa katigasan ng ulo ng grandma niya ay umabot sila sa korte kung sino nga ba talaga ang mas matimbang at sino ang may karapatan para mag-alagay kay Mary. Pero at the end of the story, na-realize ni Evelyn, which is yung grandma ni Mary, na mali yung ginawa niya kay Diane before. At ang nangyari dyan ay si Frank pa din na nag-alaga. At sa end ng story, mapapansin natin na nag-enroll si Mary sa advanced school kung saan ay nakakasabay siya sa mga topics ng math at mas nag-e-enjoy siya bilang siya dahil nga advanced siya. At dahil doon, nagkaroon siya ng normal na buhay na hinahangad ni Diane, which is yung mother niya.
Expertise is a unique ability or body of knowledge that is learned by practice, study, or other types of learning. This ability become expert at new things allow the human to spread throughout the world and permitted the development of the technology that has created modern civilization. And according to John R. Hayes, 1985, that no one develops expertise without a great deal of hard work. Furthermore, it provides crucial insight into information acquisition and learning that may be used for enhancing education and instructional techniques.
According to one interpretation, we call that nucleus is the location of highly specialized expertise that enables you to come up with appropriate answer without conscious effort, whereas the cortex is connected to the conscious perception and the deliberate and conscious analysis of any given situation, whether novel or familiar. As a person gets better at a task, their brain activation switches from computation to retrieval, moving from the prefrontal cortex to most posterior portions of the cortex. Using PET imaging, they discovered that early learning was accompanied by greater activation in frontal areas than later learning. In contrast, later learning was accompanied by greater activity in hippocampus, a structure linked to memory. These findings show that the anterior cingulate is heavily involved in coordinating behavior early in a task, but that as the learning progresses, participants are essentially recalling the answers from memory.
In the movie, the level of math that 7-year-old Mary is learning differential equations would typically be introduced to college sophomores or juniors who are pursuing math, and most college students will never go that deeply into math. To put this in context, it means that Mary is performing 12 to 13 years above her grade level in math. In her pattern of learning is depending on how the math is taught and introduced to Mary. Mary's memory was immediately retrieved when her teacher Bonnie asked her about the answer to 57 multiplied by 135. At first, Mary was not answering because she was calculating in her mind, but when she found out the answer, her teacher Bonnie was surprised. So she calculated and Mary was right.
According to the movie The Gifted, Mary is an exceptional kid. She was able to solve different math equations and problems. And what does her expertise says and what kind of learning does Mary use? So in the beginning, Mary used tactical learning as her way of learning because she uses the sequence of simple problems like addition, multiplication, and division. She constantly finds and memorizes sequence of the equation, so she was able to solve it, and the Trachtenberg method was also implied. And also taking note of her natural expertise on math. When her grandmother took her to a professor who wanted her to solve a complex and complicated problem, she wasn't able to say the answer first and took her long enough to figure it out because she used strategic learning, whereas she first studied the general structure of the problem before concluding. For a strategic learning, sequence doesn't repeat exactly, but they do have similarity. That's why Mary said that there's something wrong or the problem was wrong because she used strategic learning.
Skill acquisition is the ability to be trained on a particular task or function and become expert in it. It involves a range of structural and functional changes in the brain, allowing us to perform the acquired skills more effectively. As people become more proficient at a task, they seem to use less of their brains to perform that task. In correlation with the movie, Mary attained this kind of skill in which she has the ability to solve math problems easily. At young age, she can solve algebra problems without thinking very much. She acquired this skill due to her exposure to different mathematical concepts at her early years and the genetic factors. So, as years goes by, she developed high levels of expertise in solving math problems.
The brain region that moves for expertise is the frontal lobe that is frontmost part of your brain. It's responsible for control over many abilities, including the way you think, how you move, and how you remember things. In the movie, Mary is learning differential equations at the age of 7. Elizabeth Munch, an assistant professor in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics at the University of Albany, notes that depending on how the math is taught and introduced, the level of math that 7-year-old Mary is learning differential equation will typically be introduced to college sophomores or juniors who are pursuing math. Most college students will never proceed that deeply into the math. To put in this context, it means that Mary is performing 12 to 13 years above her grade level in math. Rapid math learning and performing well above grade level are possible, but are not necessary for a child to require gifted services to meet her learning needs.
Skill acquisition involves 3 stages: cognitive, associative, and autonomous. The cognitive stage is the beginner's level, focusing on mental concentration and understanding new information, while the associative stage refines the skill through repetition. The autonomous stage is achieved when all subparts of the skill are mastered, allowing automatic and precise execution with keen aesthetic awareness and the ability to identify and correct errors quickly, process and adapt to external feedback. In Mary's case, her stages of acquisition seems to occur earlier than expected. Aside from being a prodigy, she was taught by Frank everything she acquired, which we can relate to cognitive stages, and her being able to execute all she have learned in repetition and rehearsal enters the associative state. Mary reaches the autonomous stage at young age wherein she was able to master her skills in mathematics.
Deliberate practice pertains to how the learners are not simply learning but are motivated to learn, which enabled them to gain expertise on a particular subject over time. In the movie, we can see Mary deliberately studying advanced mathematical topics as she seems to be interested in them. Additionally, she would also play toys that require logical input. The amount of time she spent in learning mathematics at her age most likely contributed greatly to her expertise on the subject. Although the film emphasized the role of genetics towards Mary's genius, her interest in the subject as well as her environment in learning, which allowed her exceptional ability to be honed, greatly contributed to how she managed to learn advanced mathematical topics.
Experts can recognize patterns of elements that repeat in many problems and know what to do in the presence of such patterns without having to think them through. In the movie, Mary is a child prodigy that impresses her teacher by doing mental calculation called the Trachtenberg system. Altogether, she uses tactical and strategic learning, problem perception, pattern learning, and the memory. Special skills, as we called it, is a unique ability that has been said earlier. It can only be acquired through practice, study, or other form of learning new skills. Humans have been able to explore the continuous development of technology that strengthens contemporary society.
Expertise and psychology are connected to each other. Expertise could help psychologists to create a further study about the development of brain, how it learns, how it develops, and how we get some certain skills and can also help developing some tests to identify the capabilities and skill that is fit to the certain expertise of a person. Expertise can also answer the questions or become a stepping point to understand the different talents or skills for different persons, such as different kind of intelligence. Can also show about the difference between a protege and a genius.
We all have a variety of skills and are highly competent in our own ways. Experts play a vital role in examining difficult situations and offering advice on what should be done since they have specialized knowledge, aptitude, or judgment in a certain sector. Your skills, strategies, and identity will be on display if you are an expert in a certain field. Additionally, it aids in the exploration of novel concepts and cutting-edge strategies. It also allows you to double your proficiency bonus for an already honed ability. Some of the basic areas to show expertise include asking questions, providing answers, completing in-depth research, conducting interviews, writing, and even speaking coherently. Keep in mind that having a skill set that goes beyond more knowledge or mere knowledge is what's important, so application and experiences are necessary. Ikaw, isang field ka expert.